The Rebbe Rashab answers in our mind, but it's also there, I think, in the Drushim of the Rebbe the Tom telling. And he says like that. He said, where was the Kesed before the Mabul? There must have been a Kesed before the Mabul as well. And he said, no, there wasn't. And he said, why? Because the whole world, through the activities of man, had a Yerida, like he said, Yerud. It had a Yerida, and even the clouds, yeah, he said, even the clouds would grab a cloud. They were had called Ananiim Gasim V'Yosef. So that even if the light of the sun shone at them, it just, the clouds just laughed at it. You know, they didn't react, Beklau. But he said, once there'd been a Mabul, and the Adam did tshuva, and this is the key thing. It's not just that the Tahara came about through the world going through a mikveh, but that be'ikah, that the Mabul had the power to make the world like a mikveh tahor, well, that came into the fact that man also, he acted in a way that he changed. And since he acted in a way that he changed, well, the ability to change the world in its very essence. So therefore the Rebbe said, why do you have a keshes after the Mabul? He said, because the clouds after the Mabul are not the same cloud. I said the Rebbe Rashab writes in the moment, it's not the same cloud, it's edler clouds. And since the clouds are more ruchni as, and therefore they react to the shemesh in a way that they give color. Philip Floyd.
What tshuva?
Before the Mabul, they couldn't do that.
What tshuva did Noach do?
Oh, that's a good question, because it's not sort of written so clearly in the Pesukim. You follow? But we have to say that if you were a whole year inside a place like the table, when you saw what was going on in the world outside, what would you do? You would think things over a bit, right? You would think things over, and you would say, listen, if Hashem has saved me from all that's going on out there, there must be some reason, you know. He must expect something of me. And that's, in effect, what happened. And therefore, it's very amazing. Permit me just to tell you. And I spoke with the guys in the class over there in the Tmim Dorim. There's an amazing Maimon, I am based where the Rebbe brings there's a medrash. And the medrash says that when Noach offered up the korbanos, it was a reach nechoya, a beautiful smell. So he said, the medrash said, what did Hashem smell? It's not a particularly beautiful ray when you burn flesh, you know. What did Hashem smell, as it were, in the ray? That's certainly he smelled the garments of Avraham Avinu when he came out of the Kivshan Hay. That Avraham Avinu wasn't burnt, but his garments got charred away to nothing, and they made a smell. So Avraham Avinu hasn't been yet. Avraham Avinu is only going to be in the future. And then he says, Kananiah, Mishoel, Azariah, yeah, the three friends of Daniel. And you know the whole story with Nebuchadnezzar. And he threw them into they said they're not going to bow down to the pestle. And he threw them into a Kivshan age. They also, it's brought down that their clothes gave off a smell of char. When you scorch something, it makes a funny smell. And the amazing thing about them is that they stayed inside the Kivshan age. They didn't just walk in and then walk out and still remain alive. But they stood there until the king told them to come out. Yeah. Wow. He told him to go in, and he saw what was happening, and his eyes were bulging out, and he said, absolutely. And all of a sudden he woke up to not being burnt, you know. So he shouted to them, come out of there, you know. And so they came out, and their clothes made a schmeck, you know, their clothes made a, so it's written that the Eibishter schmecked in Noach's korban, he schmecked that red.
Wow.
So the Rebbe steps up to him. What's to do it? These guys haven't been in the world yet. What's the smell? Elamai. He said that the whole Eden is that they revealed Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, and Avraham Avinu. Yeah, a long time before Matan Torah, Avraham Avinu said that the only way, ultimately, that you can really serve Hashem is if you're prepared to have Mesiras Nefesh It doesn't mean you have to jump into a kibbutz age, but you've got to be ready for Mesiras Nefesh. Aber der Ewigste schmeckt dann in Neues Korb. And he said, oh, Mesiras Nefesh, oh, that's another thing altogether. And the Rebbe Shab writes over there that he schmeckt in the Reah, what was a korban, he schmeckt the keteros in the base of me. And he said, the keteros is higher than the korban. He said, Noah was matzliah to put into the korban a reah of the keteros, and the keteros is had a complete devotion to Hashem. Had a knot, had a very complete devotion. Ketira is even kesher. Of Amera, that's Mesiras Nefesh. So Noah put that into his korban. And Melchus said his korban wasn't really a normal korban, it was more like ketira. So that comes out that we learn from that Noah, in offering up the korban, he gave his whole self away. He did tshuva, and he was prepared to show to all the generations to come that the only way things will really work is if you're prepared to have Mesiras Nefesh. And so I told the guys over there, forgive me, that's also why the Alter Rebbe went to prison. Why did the Alter Rebbe go to prison? He could have not gone to prison. Why did he go to prison? He wanted to show to all his followers that if you want this whole thing to really work, and you want to bring Pnimis Torah in the world, and you want to bring Mashiach through Pnimis Torah, then you have to be ready for a bit of Mesiras Nefesh. And so the Alter Rebbe, he went on Mesiras Nefesh Mameh. And that gave the power for all the other people to come along and have a little bit of Mesiras Nefesh. And the same with Noah, the same with Pili Plus. When I saw that, my mind just rolled off my chair. I said, doesn't really blow. I mean, and that makes sense with what you said. Where's Noah's big tshuva? Where do we see it? You understand? He had time in the Teva to think things over. And he came to the realization that you've got to be prepared for a bit of Mesiras Nefesh. And Avraham Avinu, he was the one that came and did it.
We know that Noah was not such a glick.
Oh, now that's once again, you're asking good kashiyas, but we have to realize that Noah wants a chayin be'enei Hashem. Similar, there was something in Noah. Chayin is l'mayla mitam v'das and gans. There was something in Noah. So he began this whole idea. He didn't achieve it, and who did achieve it, was Avraham Avinu. And the Zohar compares Noah to Avraham Avinu. There's a kesher between them. In other words, that Noah Avinu perfected what Noah started. He didn't quite perfect it, but Avraham Avinu perfected.
As Moshe Rabbeinu.
Moshe Rabbeinu is another story. Moshe Rabbeinu is another in there. It's all connected. I'm sorry I had to take a bit of time, but I think that makes the whole thing much more understood. According to the way the world is in its own right. Oh, and there's a medrash, Pilmatika medrash, that the Rebbe brings down, that when Noah came out of the Teva, he looked at the world and he said, Olam Chadash. Now just imagine, he walked out of the Teva, there's nobody around. There's no world, a new world. Well, what's the new world? It's been through Tahara, according to the Alter. It's a new world together. Nazamatsu Korashel Birava. Zichuk. And therefore the Rebbe says in the Sikha that the whole concept of Bira was Zichuk, that began with Noah. Ubaloshin Chazal, al Noah Tleacha Sheyotze min HaTeva, Oilam Chadash Ra'am. He saw a whole new world. Pili Plez. So, I want to get ahead of it, I want to get towards the end, because it's something very pivoting towards the end. Now I'm just going to sum up the next chapter very briefly. And the Rebbe said that there's a deeper sort of Indian in this whole world that changed because of the weight of the mensch, Mata Lamaila. And he said that if we examine the creation, the majority of the creation is Shem Elokim. Bereshit Bora Elokim, and the 32 times Elokim in the whole story of the Maaseh Bereshit. And then there's the summing up of the whole B'yoyim says, Havaya Elokim, Elot Shemayim, mentions the Shem Havaya, but together with the Shem Elokim. In other words, it's the Shem Havaya, how it's acting through the Shem Elokim. So, everything is really from the Shem Havaya, but it goes through the Shem Elokim, and that causes a symptom and a helem that we don't live and see the Shem Havaya Begoli. We live with the helem Hestadavah. So he said, Noah Motza Chayin Ba'enei Havaya, that Noah had this is one of the great miles of Noah, that he had this power to be mamsik the inyan of the Shem Havaya in the world. And therefore we find in certain places in Pashanayah that the Shem Havaya is mentioned, and by that Korban, particularly Vayora Havaya es Reach HaNachoya, the infant the Shem Havaya. And then later on the Keshes, so the Rebbe talks about the Keshes, and he said there's an amazing, it was also brought down in that moment from the Rebbe Roshel that I told you, that there's an amazing medrash that says that the Keshes is from the word Hekesh, where the word Hekesh in Hebrew means a comparison. And he says that Loma Nikra Hekesh Mevnei Shehu Dover HaMukash Li, that the Keshes is like a thing compared to Hashem. So the Rebbe says, what's compared to Hashem? The Keshes is the expression, Begoli, of the Shem Havaya. And in the Shem Havaya, Atzmai, the higher Madrega in the Shem Havaya, the two Madregas in the Shem Havaya. The higher Madrega, and the Shem Havaya is the Shem Ha'etem. That's a very essential name, and therefore it's Kilo Dov HaMukash Li, meaning a very essential essence level in the Shem Havaya. And that revealed itself after the Korban of Noach in the whole new Brit covenant which Hashem is making with the world, is the symbol that we're bringing down the Shem Havaya. And he said that's the greatness of Noach, that Noach, although he had faults and everything, we did. You had to say something, but Noah, nonetheless, he was poyel agila Shem Havaya b'toich ha'olam more than what is there mitzad Shabbos Bereishit. Mitzad Bereishit is be'ika the world, and the world is Shem Elokim. He said here Noah brought down agila in the world of the Shem Havaya to a very high level in the Shem Havaya. That's a tremendous achievement.
Did the generation of Noah already have a Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noah?
Oh, they did, sure.
They had the Sheva Mitzvahs.
The Gemara says in the Masechta Sanhedrin, the Gemara says that 6 of those mitzvahs were given to Adam HaRishon.
Adam HaRishon?
Yeah, Adam HaRishon already had them. There was this one, I've forgotten which one it is, that he didn't get or he wasn't told. And then when Noah came on, he was told the 7th. And he was told, commanded, like a group of all the mitzvahs per se, that he had to, and all his generations after. Because Adam, he just kept them, it said that he understood that this is what has to be done. But Noah was given in the form of a formula of commandment to him and to all his generations. You follow? Mm-hmm. So he's up to Gemara in the sector in Perek Shvi. Up to Gemara. Mel follows according to that he already had the whole 7 mitzvahs to name Noah. Derek Hager would hear the story about the Bochum in Lebanon or something. My wife told me she saw an amazing thing on the internet that there were 3 boys, Chabad boys, that they got over the border in Lebanon. I don't know what they were doing, how they got there. And they said, well, since we're here amongst all these Lebanese, you have to teach them the 7 mitzvahs to name Noah. So some guy who didn't quite like their noses, he went and reported them to the local authorities that they're trying to act as missionaries for the Jews, that they're trying to make everybody into Jews.
Ah.
That's illegal or something in that part of Lebanon. So the judge in the local court said, go and arrest him. So he went and arrested these three young boys, and eventually they came up in front of the judge. And they told the judge that you got it wrong. We're definitely not trying to make people Jews, we're just trying to teach them the SHIUR mitzvahs for all mankind. And the judge was apparently a little bit of an intelligent sort of a guy, and he helped. And he said, well, you can't hold these guys have a good message. And he freed them.
Whoa.
Banged on the desk, and he said, free. He heard the SHIUR mitzvahs and they know, and he heard what they're all about. As my wife told me, she saw it on the internet. I don't have time to have a look at the internet. Occasionally I look at my email once every 3 days or so. Right? Apart from that, but my wife, she's into looking at the news, see what's going on. She told me that story.
Whoa.
Yeah. That's what you asked about the SHIUR mitzvahs in there. Anyway, we see from that if you get on the Rebbe's, if you're on the Rebbe's cart, you never go wrong, you know. You might sit in jail for 2 nights.
Or a few days.
Philip. Oh, so now the Rebbe says another thing. This is really pretty close. The Rebbe says that when you're in Tishrei, you're in Tishrei, you have to do tshuva. But you do tshuva for what's been passed in the year before. Be'ikah, your tshuva relates to the past. He said, now it's Shabbos Noach. And he said, Noach, like we said, it's like the first week, which is koil all the weeks of the year to come. He said, you've got to do tshuva about what you're going to be doing the whole year. The Rebbe said, you have to make a cheshbon tzedek. What have you been doing during this first week? Have you actually devoted yourself to the first week the way you should have really done? And you have to make all sorts of decisions what you're going to do all the weeks that you got for the whole year. You got a whole another 51 of them, or 52 of them, basically. How many? It's a leap year, so it's probably more. Yeah? It's, you got to work out what are you going to be doing with all the weeks that are coming. And the Rebbe said that's a cheshbon tzedek that you got to do on Shabbos Noach.
Yikes.
Yeah. So the Rebbe said a cheshbon on Shabbos. So he said it's a very high cheshbon. He goes into all sorts of detail. But then the Rebbe gets on the kasha, which is so human, so important for our day. A lot of people say, you know, how come the Rebbe said that everything's finished and everything's ready for Mashiach? There's a lot of Yerunim that are still there, still things left. I don't think I'm perfect, I don't know if anybody else is. You know, so the Rebbe gets onto that question. Yeah. And the Rebbe says, you find in yourself certain things that even the over are still not 100%. How much more so what you haven't done yet, what you're supposed to be thinking that you're going to do. So the Rebbe said, you are a prat. And he said, what my father-in-law meant, that everything has been finished and everything is ready, he said, but get to the cloud. He said, the whole Klal Yisrael, if we view them all as a complete, perfected unit, the whole Klal Yisrael, and we take what they've been through, and we take what they've done, and we take all the inyanim that they've suffered, and nonetheless served Hashem as a Klal Yisrael. So the Rebbe said the few little faults that some individuals may have don't have any ability to be machriya, to swing it to way differently. And therefore, even though you've got certain things which are not decided, and if you do, then you've got to fix them. The Rebbe said, you can't just say, before Mashiach, I don't know how to fix them, but you have to realize that you are a prat, like a huge cloud, most of which is not your doing anyway. But what the cloud Yisrael has been through and done up to now is not necessarily related to you. You don't have any power to prevent the huge build-up of all the unbelievable Kedusha that's been at Khan on behalf of the Klal Yisrael, and particularly since the Rebbe The Friedrich Rebbe said that everything's finished, and that is on the scene, it's correct to the whole generation, but that means that's the way it is. And that's the end of the situation. And if you've got something to fix up, hurry it up, says the Rebbe, because Mashiach's coming. So get cracking and fix up what you got to fix, but you are not going to stop the unbelievable momentum you're created by the Klal Yisrael. It's a very key thing, because people sometimes nudge it, and they say, wait a minute, it is. And the Rebbe answers it very powerfully. And then the Rebbe says that if you're making a cheshbon tzedek, then you're going to make a cheshbon tzedek. What are you going to be doing for the whole year to bring Moshiach come quicker? And on page 74, down at the bottom, we'll just learn a little bit of it. So the Rebbe says, V'shona zu, it's about 2/3 of the way down. V'shona zu, Toshin Nun Beis, Ikarei shel HaCheshbon Tzedek, U'menegeh Legulu HaSidon. What's coming? Not what you've been doing in the past. Me'achav v'kvar b'zman shel HaRebbe HaRayat Siyamu K'hachrozosei. According to what he announced, it's Kol Inyonei Avodah, Kol Tziktzuk HaKaftorim, even the polishing of the buttons, everything's been finished. Arei sheteikah miyad, Yitalo bo yagiu la. Oma she'odem chash b'yatzma sh'adayin eino mushlam, הרי אין זה אלא בעניונים מסוימים פרוטיים שלוי, שאם כי בוודאי שעליהם לא היה תיקונם, he has to make sure that they're fixed, אך אין הם פויגים בשלמות הכלליות של עבודת כלל ישראל, כקוים האחת שלמה שאין מוכנים לגאולה. They're standing ready for the גאולה, וכיוון שכן, הרי שאף תיקון עניונים אלו נעשה ביסר קליס ובשמחה, כאשר מודעים לכך שנמצאים רגע קוט לפני הגאולה. Oh, you got things to fix up, it'll be much easier to do them and to fix them when you know that you're on the eve of the geula. That will help you do it quicker and better. That's what the Rebbe said. He said, "V'kol shkein, how much more? Kasher ovru kama shonim rabbis mehakrodosei shel Rebbe Rayat." It's already 40 years or more since the Friedrich Rebbe said that. He said, "Akvar nimtzoyim b'shnas toshin nun beis, hoyot tahei shnas niflois bakoyu, u'liachar reishis hashona yechodesh Tishrei, v'nimtzoyim b'Shabbos." And we find ourselves in our Shabbos, HaMesameles, K'omur, Shleimus Aveda Bo Ilam. Noach indicates the whole union of the Shleimus of the autumn, Dafki in the world, Bo Mudgash Klolos, Indian Yoim HaShabbos, HaShayak LaGeula. We spoke about Shabbos before, but now the Rebbe says, the fact that Noach being Noch, the Inifan Manucha, well, that's Klolos, Indian HaShabbos, he said the Shabbos is connected with Geula. And he said, not only that, he said that on Pasha Noach at Mincha, we read Lech Lecho, El Oretz Asher Arecho, Ha'alicha mi'agolas el Agim, Lech Lecho, Ha'alicha mi'agolas el Agim, Harei, Sha'achshov ein adov talui, El b'Mashiach tzidkeinoi atzmoi. Whoa. Everybody should be rolling off that church. The Rebbe, he's big mates, everybody. Good for you, Martin. You should realize that the Rebbe said, Im kein Yidden have done everything they can do. That's what the Rebbe hinted to say. Yidden have done everything they can do. It's Im kein, it's up to Moshiach. Yeah, how he says, the ball is in the court of Malchus. That's the most amazing statement. I mean, that's just absolutely mind-blowing. And then the Rebbe gets on to Kiddush Levana, and the Rebbe brings down amazing quotes from the great poskim that I get to Kiddush Levana. And there's a Ramah, I looked it up, there's a Ramah in Simon Tov Reish Kovor, where the Ramah compares the whole union of Kiddush Levana to Simchas HaNasuyin Shel Chosim V'Kala. And he says that by the Klal Yisrael, there's going to be that simcha of the Olam and the Suyin, Shehem Asidim Lehishchadish Kamoizo. The Ramon. So the Rebbe said, he said, the whole Chiddush of the Yosef Love from the Yidden, is affected, reflected, in the Yidden through the Yidden of Kiddush Levona. So therefore the Rebbe said you have to make Kiddush Levona Barovam and in the street, and then the Rebbe goes on to say that there's some people that they don't want to wait, so the Rebbe said they got a good point. It's not a good thing to wait always because it's traumatic. In the winter when the skies were covered in Russia, after about the third or the fourth day, if they saw the Levana, the Rebbe that someone said he used to make, even though the Mittler Rebbe writes in a place, Al-Pi Kabbalah, and says you should wait for 7 days. So the Rebbe says it's not, so davka that you must wait, for 7 days. The Rebbe is a bit sort of, liberal about the whole thing. Yeah. And he said if you see that, Lamosha, there'll be a lot of Yidden who are going to want to do the Moed Shabbos. This was the same period, Dalit. The Rebbe says a lot of Yidden, so the Rebbe said let them do it, and Gesund Tahid, that they should go ahead and be Mekadosh Levana and Dalit.
Wow.
Because otherwise you have to wait till Yud Aleph, and he said, it's getting close, The Rebbe writes it in the sea, Philip writes.
מה זה פרש הזה תולי במשיח ציקינו? מה פרש שאין הדבר תולי אלא במשיח ציקינו? מה פרש...
עצמו.
מה פרש שזה תולי במשיח עצמו?
The word מצד עצמו.
This.
מה פרש זה?
במשיח ציקינו.
We can sit back and
it's up to him, understand? In other words, we've done everything to prepare the way for him. If he isn't coming, then we have to ask him, why is he not coming? We've done everything we can. So the question is to him, it's dependent on him to make the decision that he's coming quick.
We did everything in a clalistic way, not in a practicing way.
So if so,
Right.
it's up to him. We've done everything we're required to do.
It's finished.
It's an amazing statement. And then at the end, they don't bring it here, it's a Pele. At the end, the Rebbe got up and stood up, and he said 7 times, Havaya Hu Elokim. 7 times, just like on Moed Yom Kippur. Yeah. It's written in the Sikh. The Rebbe got up, and in the small one, they write it in whacking big letters. That the Rebbe got up, and he said 7 times, Havaya Hu Elokim.
מה הקשר זה?
With a nigan.
מה הקשר זה?
Havaya Hu Elokim. The Rebbe said it like not this time. He said it with the nigan of Nila, of Moed Yom Kippur. Yeah. Kweet Kiddushma Shlita Hikri is Benigan Hamakul. Havaya Hu Elokim, Havaya Hu Elokim. And the Rebbe brings down on a footnote that works in 2 directions, Havaya Hu Elokim. And the Alter Rebbe must be in Shabbos Tshuva in the Kuti Torah about that. That depends which way you're looking. If you look inside the Shem Havaya towards the Bria, then Havaya Hu Elokim means that the Shem Elokim is not master because Sof Kosof, the Shem Elokim is really doing what the Shem Havaya wants. Anyway, so that really means that the Shem Elokim is bottled legamri to Shem Havaya. Havaya Hu Elokim. But if you look at the upwards, if you look the other way, then the Shem Havaya, the Gabi higher and higher and higher, is just like a Shem Elokim. The Shem Havaya is itself a Helam Vayesta, the Gabi Pnimis V'atma saying so. You got the thing? So then it's a different shot. Havaya Hu Elokim. Yeah, the Helam Vayesta is the Shem Havaya. The Gabi Atma saying so. Let's put down the Kuti Torah, the Alter Rebbe writes about it. Yeah, we learned it one Shabbos morning, we learned it down there. Philip, the Alter